I guess I really don't know what Christmas is all about.
If you think you haven't heard any crazy stories from Fresno, prepare for this one, because there's video evidence. Back in the late 90s/early 2000s, weird sightings of a strange cryptid have been seen around Fresno, California. However, in 2007, a surveillance video caught these strange creatures on camera with really long legs and small heads. I'm gonna be inserting the video in like 2 seconds, so you have been warned. The show Fact or Faked actually did an episode on these creatures to see if they were real or not. These professional paranormal investigators could find no evidence that this was faked in any sort of way. They deemed these creatures to be completely unexplainable, and some people even call them the protectors of the forest. What makes these creatures super eerie is the fact that we don't even know what they stemmed from, what their origin story is, where they came from, what they are, why they exist. But they do continue to pop up around this area, so if somebody was faking this, they would have to be really persistent. Don't forget to comment your hometown so you can be featured in the next Urban Legends video.
This is why you need to watch out for a man with orange eyes.
Orange eyes is actually a cryptid that you can find in Ohio. It's reported to be over 11 feet tall and 1,000 pounds.
It is said that Orange Eyes lives under a Cleveland cemetery, and the first time he was ever seen was on March 28th of 1959.
On that day, he attacked 2 teenagers that were hanging out at Lover's Lane. They claimed he was large and hairy and had these bright orange eyes. He also had this matted black hair and a strange odor. He was last spotted in 1991 when he appeared to 2 fishermen in Mill Creek. And afterwards, he apparently ran into a nearby woods and he was never seen again. Some people believe he's actually an alien, but to this day, he still remains a mystery.
Urban Legends Part 3. The Japanese legend of Hanako-san. It is about a spirit of a young girl named Hanako-san who haunts school bathrooms. Children may challenge other classmates to summon this spirit. Her physical appearance varies, but she's often described as having a bob and wearing a red dress. Her origins also vary. Some sources say she was a child who was murdered in the school bathroom by a stranger. Other sources say she was a girl who committed suicide in her school bathroom. So how do you summon this spirit? It is said that individuals must enter a girl's bathroom, knock 3 times on the 3rd stall and ask if she is present. If she is there, she will reply with "Yes, I am." The individual may then witness the appearance of a bloody hand. This hand may pull the individual into the toilet, and this may lead to hell, or the individual may be eaten by a 3-headed lizard.
Today we're talking about the white string. During the 1980s, this was a popular legend in Japan, and it scared a lot of children into not wanting to get their ears pierced. So a young girl wanted to get her ears pierced, but her parents were against it because they thought she was too young. After a lot of begging, her parents finally agreed to let her. They gave her money and told her to go to the jewelry store at the mall to get them pierced. But instead, she decided to keep the money and do it herself. With the help of her best friend, they heated a needle and did the piercings on their own. It was painful, but she was happy she got them pierced. However, sometime after, her ears got irritated and swollen, specifically her left ear. She went to the restroom to take a closer look and noticed something sticking out. It was a white string sticking out of her earlobe. She began to pull on it and realized it had no end. Finally, she used a pair of scissors to cut the string. Then everything went black. She couldn't see and she was rushed to the ER. She was examined, and that's when the doctor said, "I'm sorry, you'll be blind for the rest of your life." That wasn't a white string, that was an optic nerve.
The urban legend of the popular movie Totoro by Ghibli Studios. People say that Totoro is actually a shinigami, which is the god of death. And if you can see the god of death, it means you're either dead or about to be dead, which is why only a few people in the movie can see Totoro. So in the movie, when Mei goes missing and a sandal is found, Mei actually drowned. Mei's sister Satsuki can't accept the fact that Mei is dead, so she looks for Totoro and opens death's door, which eventually leads her to Mei. So when she does this, she basically gives up her life. Together, they visit their mother in the hospital. And so the reason why that their mother can see them is because she's also ill and close to death. Also take note that Mei and Satsuki both don't have shadows at the end of the movie, and only dead people don't have shadows. A lot of people say that this movie is based off of the Sayama incident in 1963. Ghibli confirmed this to be false, but it's still a really popular urban legend.
Texas, the first ever documented black-eyed kid encounter in 1996. Children are creepy in any context, true. So any urban legend including black-eyed children is bound to turn some heads. In the late 90s, a journalist named Brian Bethel was working in his town of Abilene, Texas, when he encountered something that he'll remember until his last day. He was parked outside a movie theater when two children knocked on his window. For reasons he couldn't understand, he was completely gripped with fear. He rolled down the window and the kids asked for a ride back to their house so they can get cash for the movie. His fear made him hesitate, but the kids were persistent. They kept saying weird things like they weren't armed or anything. Once Bethel looked back at the kids, he was terrified to see their eyes had turned pitch black. They started screaming at him that they could only come in the car if he invited them in. And he quickly drove away. Smart. As a journalist, he spread the word and was surprised when other people wrote back saying they had experienced something similar. No thanks.
Today we're talking about the Mickey Mouse Lost episode. The episode is from 1929, and before I start, I just want to give a warning that the way I'm going to be describing it is kind of graphic. So it's called Strolling in Town. It starts off with Mickey walking for a while, and then he suddenly sees a man. It gets kind of dark really fast. He starts to take the man's eyes out, and gets covered in blood but just walks off. He then sees Minnie and takes her to go see the man. Minnie begins to laugh and then notices the man's bloody eyes. Minnie then asks Mickey why he did this. Mickey then holding the bloody eyeball says, "I thought it was a toy." The man laying there begins to laugh. Mickey then pulls out a knife and a gun and tries to kill the man. He shoots the man and stabs him in the arms and in his head. The man begins to scream and Mickey yells at him to shut up. The man is covered in blood. The camera zooms into Mickey as he says, "Go and die." The man whispers, "I hate you," then slowly dies. Mickey then throws the weapons at the man and leaves. An ambulance shows up. Minnie then asks Mickey if he wants to go to her house. He agrees and then the episode ends.
Urban legends from every state. The Hatchet House in Portal, Nebraska. Legend says that in the early 1900s, a school teacher went mad and decapitated all of her students and placed their severed heads on each of their desks. She then removed each one of their hearts and threw them off a bridge into a nearby river. The locals call it Heartbeat Bridge. As you walk across the shuddering boards, it sounds like little tiny heartbeats. What state is next?
The creepiest urban legends from around the world, Part 3. Vietnam, the bloodthirsty grandma next door. It's said that in a rural village, a couple noticed that the meat they hung outside was going missing at night. So they decided to stay up late, and what they saw was the sick elderly woman from next door leap over their fence and begin devouring the meat with a demonic look on her face. A few days later, the couple went out of town, leaving their child with a babysitter, but upon their return, they heard screams coming from inside the house. When they ran in, they saw the old woman eating their child.
The real story of Hello Kitty. So the story starts off with a mom and a daughter. The daughter gets diagnosed with oral cancer. The mom does anything in order for the daughter to get cured, but through hospital bills and treatment, the daughter only seems to be getting worse. Desperate, the mom starts turning to satanic rituals. She ends up making a deal with the devil. The deal was that if the devil cured her daughter, the mom would then have to make a cartoon character that kids all over the world would fall in love with, subconsciously letting the devil into their lives.
So last week I talked about the urban legend of the black-eyed children, but today we're talking about the far creepier white-eyed children. Now these creatures have a similar appearance to the black-eyed children. They're very skinny, pale-looking children, but instead of their eyes being totally black, their eyes are totally white. The black-eyed children you have to invite into your home, but the white-eyed children appear there on their own. These creatures actually possess the ability to control your mind. One theory is that you actually do let them in without even thinking about it because they control your mind and make you open the door. Once these kids are in your house, they're usually standing very still in a corner or against a wall just staring at you. And they can actually communicate with you through their minds. And they usually tell you that somebody you know is about to die, and then they disappear into thin air. Some people think these children are angels, others think they're demons, and some think that they're aliens. But all of their predictions come true.
The Banshee is a female spirit in Irish folklore whose bone-chilling scream is said to be an omen of death. If you hear her shrieks, it is said that a member of your family will pass away soon. Some people believe that each family actually has a banshee of their own that watches over them. Some stories say that instead of appearing as an omen of death, they appear to celebrate someone's death. They often appear as a woman dressed in a gray or white cloak with reddened eyes from constantly weeping. Can relate. The Banshee is a tale I'm quite familiar with, and I always imagine them to be more of a nervous creature rather than a vicious one. Their job is basically to let people know that their time is up, so I always imagine them not being too fond of the fact that they're constantly warning people that someone they love is going to die soon, so that's why I depicted the Banshee the way that I did.